Okay, let's get started, right? Welcome everybody, Sil here from Into Design Systems. So happy to see so many people attending this meetup. It's our first accessibility meetup. And yeah, we are so happy to have two accessibility leads here, Sarah and Marcelo, who are going to talk about how to create accessible components and raise awareness for accessibility, right? Because, I myself deal a lot with variables, auto layout, design tokens, trying to create the perfect components. But when it comes to accessibility, I feel like a complete noob. How about you, Andressa? Is it the same?
Maybe not 100% new, but you can always be learning more. Yeah, I used to teach accessibility a few years ago, but there's always so much that you can learn. I'm very excited to hear this connection between design systems and accessibility and how we can be doing better from, the ground up. Yeah, super, super excited.
Nice. Before we start reviewing your components and learning about accessible components, we would love to invite you to our introvert-friendly networking. I will post a link to this Miro board in the chat. Feel free to join us. There you go. So what we mean by introvert-friendly networking, we want you to network, we want you to connect with people. There is a chance to ask questions. So please feel free to use the board and let us know where you are joining us from. We have improved our world map. Now it's easier to even find Berlin because we are joining from Berlin, Andressa and I, right? We just wrapped up a really cool meetup at SoundCloud.
Yep, I see Ellie is on the call as well. Oh,
Yeah.
she did an amazing job hosting.
So by hitting C, you can add a comment. Feel free to put some info about yourself and connect with people. You can also leave a comment here. So yeah, please feel free to use the board. I see already many people joining. That's really cool. We also have our icebreaker. So if a picture could describe your design system, work or knowledge or current mood, how would it look like? So I'm like this today. Design systems is about people, about components, but it's always very, very confusing. So feel free to also feel free to drop like what your current challenge is, so we can create more content for you. There is a networking board. Feel free to leave your LinkedIn profile link. We have a job board, we have resources. And last but not least, we would love to also take the opportunity to announce our upcoming conference. It's a 3-day design systems conference, which is taking place end of May. So if you want to learn more about design systems, there are now early bird tickets available. And we will also see our accessibility experts, Sarah and Marcelo, presenting. So if you want to learn more, feel free to have a look at our conference. And then we would love to introduce our friends, our accessibility leads, Sarah and Marcelo. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Sure. So thank you, Sil. So I am Sarah Massengale, right now working as an independent accessibility consultant. I use she and her pronouns. I am a white woman with short reddish brown hair. and currently wearing a Life is Good t-shirt. And I am also totally blind and a native screen reader user, which we'll talk about a little more about screen readers and kind of what that means. But so I do accessibility from an end user perspective, as well as kind of from that more technical perspective, because these are challenges that I am working through on a daily basis. Marcelo, I will pass it over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. I am Marcelo Paiva. I'm a bald, smiley guy speaking to you out of Brazil today. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm blown away with how many people there is in this conference or this video conference. People from all over the world. This is amazing. I don't think I ever seen or presented to a so diverse group. So I'm very happy and flattered to be here, to be honest. So I think Sarah was modest introducing herself. She's an amazing accessibility specialist. We met through work when I was working with the US Department of Education, and she was one of the end users that I interview and conduct the user research with. And since that day on, my accessibility skills have only been getting better and better because as a designer, I've been improving and creating methodologies, and Sarah and we've presented at conferences together. And I can only say thank you. Taking the opportunity of Thanksgiving here in the US, I want to thank you, Sarah, for being a great partner so far. So
That goes both ways, my friend, because I have learned so much from the design perspective and the more technical perspective working with you. So I am grateful to keep presenting with you and keep working with you.
thank you.
Awesome. Last but not least, we have our amazing host, my dear friend Andressa, also hosting this call, this accessibility. So we are a little bit super excited to do this with you. Andressa, do you also want to say hi?
Yeah, of course. Hi. Hi from Berlin today. I actually have the Berlin Tower behind me here. Normally I'm based out of Ireland. And yeah, I'm a big Into Design Systems fan and supporter and host. Yeah, I also work as a design systems and used to be an accessibility teacher as well. Yeah, and I also work as my full-time as a design system lead. Super excited for this meetup. We had a workshop with Marcelo and Sarah earlier this year, and it was super great. So I'm excited to see more of that, more of component analyzing and learning from them.
Awesome. Before we get started, Sarah, you told me that out of 5 forms, 4 are at least not accessible, right? So to tell people why it's so important to deal with this.
Yep, absolutely. So between that and if you think about that disability community, the disability community is the intersection that touches all other communities, right? Regardless of race and ethnicity and orientation and all of the things, disability touches all of those. So when you look at 97 to 98% of websites are inaccessible, I believe it was the last statistic I read. Think about how important that makes accessibility from the design perspective as you're building these components that will eventually become parts of websites, parts of applications, parts of, various digital assets.
Wow. Okay, cool. So I think we are ready to getting started with the presentation. Please, everyone, Into DesignSystems is a safe, inclusive space for everybody. Be a nice human. Also in the chat, that would be really cool. So yeah, Marcelo and Sarah, let's get started. I will stop sharing. Can't wait to learn about accessibility. Let's go.
Sounds good. Let me
Awesome.
share my screen here.
Right.
All right. Are we sharing? Can everyone
Yes.
see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so this will be an accessibility review session for design systems. So when you think about accessibility review sessions is when you're beginning to design your component, you put your ideas, put your requirements, or even sketches in front of an accessibility specialist to understand or gather additional requirements to ensure that you're not excluding anyone. So that's pretty much the session today. I'll pass to go to the next slide and introduce ourselves. Sarah, you already introduced yourself, but you want to tell a little bit about your accessibility consultant role. What do you do?
Absolutely. So what I do is to help companies, designers. Lately, I've been working with a lot of arts organizations to really understand what it means to focus on accessibility. So that may look different depending. I do some accessibility auditing. I do some advising when folks are building new websites. I do accessibility training. And then sometimes it's just as simple as letting someone experience part of their website by hearing what a native screen reader user experiences.
Very well. And I am Marcelo Paiva. Like beyond what I usually do, I am the creator of the WCAG plugin for Figma. So I'll show you some of that during the presentation. But I also accelerate design and front-end development teams on accessibility. I create methodologies, I create tools for accessible rapid prototyping. So anything related to creating equitable experiences, I am involved and I'm so passionate about this field. So you want to talk about our positionality today, Sarah? I can explain what
Absolutely.
positionality is to everyone. So positionality is understanding how our background, our identity shapes the way we behave, shapes the way we see things around the world, and as a matter of fact, shape the way we create things for others, right? So I'll go over here. Sarah, do you want to give us your positionality on accessibility?
Absolutely. So where do I come to this space from? So as I've mentioned, I am totally blind. I am also neurodivergent. So basically, the way I see that is my brain works differently. Um, a lot of times that means that I'm going to take your content very literally. I'm possibly going to need some more context than the average person to really understand what's going on. I'm also queer and a member of the LGBTQ community, so I'm coming at it from that place as well. And then, of course, I am a white woman raised in very rural South Carolina who experiences that inequity on a daily basis. So I'm going to come at this very strongly, very passionately as an advocate, not just as someone who's going to focus exclusively on compliance.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sarah. And my positionality as a hard of hearing diabetic and as a Brazilian immigrant into the US since the 90s, that shapes my understanding of exclusion and inclusion. So everything that I create, the way I create user experiences, has a lot to do with my time growing as a professional in the US as an immigrant, as as a Brazilian, we're bringing the South American culture into a different country is never a smooth process. So, but this is where I am, and this is how we're going to be presenting this meetup today. Hope you can all appreciate our backgrounds. Right. So this is the accessibility review sessions. There are three things that we're going to do today. So we're going to share the why when, and how to conduct accessibility review sessions with your teams, with your engineers, with your product managers. If you have the privilege to have an accessibility specialist in your organization, wonderful, right? So this is how you can create these rituals and create ways of learning and exchanging knowledge. If you're a team of one, or if you are a freelancer and you don't have the luxury of working with others on a daily basis, that's like people like Sarah and I, we can help you connect. Make sure you connect us through LinkedIn. We're always helping. We have community hours on a weekly basis where we invite people for free for 30 minutes, and we do that mentorship type of format conversation. The second thing, we're going to share a Figma template, which I'll probably share right away. I'll share the link on a Zoom chat, and then we're going to conduct a live session. So we know time is short, so we're going to jump right into it. And are you designing for all users? That's the main question today, right? Sarah, do you want to talk about the disability types?
Yeah, absolutely. So just because maybe you've thought about designing for a screen reader user, that's the one of the big ones, right? But just because you've thought about that, have you thought about designing for plain language? Have you thought about designing for, someone who's going to, with the neurodiversity, need that additional context or that very literal way of writing things? Have you thought about designing any content that may be video based with captions for someone with a hearing disability? Are you thinking about motor disabilities? There is so much to consider. But of course, remember, if you're designing for all of these disability types, you're also designing an experience that is more equitable and easier for non-disabled users as well.
Indeed, indeed. So there's some very quick stats. I think we're going to be sharing this slide. I'm not going to be making the case for you to sell accessibility in your organization, but these are the numbers, right? So it's about 1 in 4 people in the world has a disability, right? There's a lot of, including market, like the business case for making sure that your product is accessible is beyond made, right? So I think this is something that if you need more understanding how to sell accessibility, we can always talk offline. We have plenty of slides and cases that we can help you make the case in your organization. There is one quote that Frank made during the Figma conference in the beginning of the year. He said that designers aren't as empathetic as we say we are. If we were, our products would be more accessible, right? And it is true, right? So we have so much to learn. It's not that we are doing that consciously. Has a lot of unintention and time pressure. Everything that we do, it's like rushing, and sometimes we don't have the time nor the budget to make things accessible. But that's why it's important that we start thinking about accessibility from day one. And what we're going to be presenting today is just like one small practice that we include into the design process to help you gain that knowledge and continue building on that practice. All right, so there are a couple of things when we talk about accessibility reviews. I can skip through this as well. So these are the reasons why we should be conducting accessibility review sessions. Obviously, there's the awareness perspective. So you want to start bringing your team, your teammates, and doing that just so they are more aware of the barriers that people with disabilities face if they don't know. There's definitely the learning perspective. So we all learn together when we do accessibility review sessions. There's the misconception perspective. Teams may think that accessibility is too complex, it's too expensive. Let's download an accessible component library and our product will all of a sudden become accessible. That is a misconception, right? So that's things that we learn during accessibility review sessions. And obviously, there's the collaboration perspective. When you start exchanging your knowledge or start learning from others, there is that that desire to always keep doing that ritual more and more, because there's always something that you can pick up from. The sequence of creating an accessible component goes this way. So you audit something, right? So you audit what you want to build. You share with the accessibility specialist. You design, you test, and then you annotate for accessibility with the guidelines for your engineer or front-end developer. So that's pretty much all the sequence. We're gonna go through that sequence right now. We're gonna be using this component today. This is a pricing card component, and out of Untitled UI. And the first thing that we see, let's just say a visual designer or UX designers created this pricing card, or they downloaded from UI kit. First thing I would do is let's see what are the problems that we see with this pricing card. So Sarah and I, we run an experiment yesterday. Do you want to talk about that with how you were able to use ChatGPT to be your eyes?
Absolutely. So one of the things that Marcelo and I have were talking about yesterday is that I am learning to understand Figma and to how to work with Figma. And as a blind person, I asked Marcelo yesterday, well, how do we deal with designs in Figma? And his answer to me was, it's an image. And so we were thinking, well, how do I, as a blind accessibility specialist, work with this image, and how do I make sure that the burden of trying to describe this image to me doesn't fall on my designer, because that's the last thing we want, right? So AI is wonderful, and we're seeing some really cool things happen. What I was able to do is get this image as both a PNG and an SVG file, upload these to ChatGPT, and then go into ChatGPT in voice mode and explain the situation to it. Explain that I was a blind accessibility specialist, hypothetically conducting a review with a designer, take it through the whole process. And it was able to do things like calculate the color contrast, which is a big thing that we check for, and tell me how readable the font would be for someone with a cognitive disability, and how about the button size for people with motor disabilities. And all of this was done basically having a conversation with the AI. And then I was able to take that and ask it to draft a review, which, if I were doing this realistically, I would then turn around and edit for my designer. But I was able to tell it to draft a review and literally write out all of the problems we had conversed about.
Right. So one thing that was revealing to me in trying to engage Sarah to do a static visual reviews for accessibility was that she knew the right questions to ask. She wasn't asking ChatGPT, oh, make this accessible for me, right? You are an accessibility specialist for 20 years of experience, make this accessible. No, she was asking the right question because she's lived in this, the disability world since she was a child. So she knows what questions to ask, and it was very interesting to see the experience. But can you spot some accessibility risks in this pricing card today? I'm not going to ask everyone to open the mic, but I have that ready for you. We already done the work. There's definitely some color contrast, target size, heading structure, text alternatives, focus order, layout scalability, like how will this reflow? How will this pricing card behave when it's side by side with another pricing card, when it's within a section on a page layout? So there's so many things that we go through even though we're just reviewing a single component or a single button, there are many scenarios that we need to take into account, right? So the accessibility review session, it goes something like this. So we add the dots, the accessibility specialist, you share this pricing card with your accessibility specialist, and the accessibility specialist can annotate this beforehand. And when you come and you talk about this, you have a much more productive session, because they're not evaluating your component on the fly. So they've done the homework. They added the WCAG guidelines that you need to follow. And so you can use the plugin to go and drop those accessibility guidelines on a Figma file. And then you have that conversation. And once you have that, you'll be able to iterate and remediate. So here on this slide, you see two pricing cards. The previous one that was had some accessibility risks. I say risks because it's not yet a violation. It's not an accessibility issue, because you're just designing. It becomes a violation when someone encounters a barrier, right? So this is a risk, and we remediated those risks with the newly designed pricing card. Still very subtle, and you have enough color contrast for the buttons, for the text. You have enough target area. Now you have a visual focus that's very distinguishable, right? So these are the steps that we go through. I'm going to share with you let me share right now. I think I have it on Go in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing here. And why I'm not sharing, if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask.
And feel free to either come off mute or write them in the chat, because we are good to answer either way.
All right. So no questions. If you have a question, feel free to drop it on the chat.
Hey,
I share
I have a
the.
question. Sorry,
Hey,
Marcelo.
Jordan, go ahead.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm chiming in from Seattle, Washington. My
Oh,
question is,
wow.
how do you guys measure the return on investment in an organization when it comes to accessibility? And what are some of the KPIs you guys track?
Sure, that's a very business-oriented question. How do you measure your satisfaction when you experience a mobile app? Right. So it's in
Yeah,
my mind, before trying to measure the return on investment, I would try to measure the user satisfaction, the equity that the people with disability deserve to have. So before any business, I can talk, like I mentioned on the slide before, I can talk about how to make the business case for accessibility. There's a lot of market opportunities or with the disability community alone, right? And not to mention that each disabled person has relatives. They also have the power to buy. So it's very easy to make that case. I think it's how you sell. It's important. Thank you for your question.
thank you.
All right.
Marcelo,
Actually,
were
there are a
you,
couple items in the chat too.
Sure. Go ahead.
I had just a question for what you were showing. Was that the WCAG plugin for
The
Figma?
WCAG. Yes.
WCAG. Thank you.
Yeah, the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So we in this field, we have the bad habit of just pronouncing the acronyms, which is not a good thing to do. It's the WCAG plugin. All right, so going back to sharing my presentation. We're
I'm going to
trying to
address
go fast.
one question real quick because it's the last one I
Go ahead,
saw.
sir. Mhm.
So the question about how long did it take me to get this review with AI? What would you say, Marcelo? I think about 10 minutes.
With AI?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more like an experiment because first of all, Sarah never had spoken to ChatGPT, and then and I mentioned to her, you can actually talk. You don't need to type anything. Let's upload the visual, and then we can start asking questions. I would say it took about 15 minutes.
Yeah, about 15 minutes, and consider 15 minutes of productivity time versus I literally could have never done this. What literally would have had to happen is I would have had to take this image. I'd have had to go and find a sighted accessibility specialist, to be very blunt, put more work on them and get them to do my review.
Right. Yeah, things are changing, and thankfully it's changing for better. So it's a more inclusive way of using artificial intelligence for the good, right? So
So
I'm
I
going
see
to.
that
Do you
there are
have any
more
other comments,
questions in the
Sarah?
chat. Let's hold on for what I was just going to say. I see there are more questions in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming back to y'all. I promise we are coming back to y'all. I just want to make sure we get everything covered, and then we will come back.
Great. I don't see the chat, so I'm not sure. But if there's more than 5 questions, because there are about hundreds of people in this video console, we will save some time at the end for Q&A, right? I want to make sure that you go through this experience of seeing us doing accessibility reviews on live components, on designs, because that's what we're trying to go through this theoretical part, and then we'll be able to have more dynamic conversation with you, right? So there are 4 things that we typically recommend documenting for engineers before you send your designs for development. Regions or landmarks. So these landmarks help assistive technology users to jump from one section to another. I'll have an example for that. Semantic headings, so having a clear structure of headings, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 in a hierarchical order. The reading and focus order, how people navigate with the keyboard, making sure that it follows the semantic structure of the layout. And obviously text alternatives. If you have images, how do you describe that image to someone who cannot see the image, right? So there's a first bad practice of the day is this is how not to do accessibility annotations and send to your engineer. So this is what I call accessibility notation for enemies, right? So you start overlaying all the notations on a single layout, right? So don't overlay your accessibility annotations, and instead and you see that on the template that I just shared. So I have specific locations and sections that you can do these type of annotations. So what you're seeing over here is a landmark. So let me just show you very quickly what a landmark on a page is. So I'm showing the Rhonda White Center website, and I have this quick Chrome extension called Landmarks conveniently, and I can mouse over and I can still see the landmark. So you can see that this page has a banner, there's a primary navigation, there's a main region area, and there's a footer as well. There's another one that I like showing over here. This is an e-commerce website. If I bring in that landmark, so you can see how many landmarks this website that we did back in the day has, right? So you have clear headings, you have filter region. So landmarks is almost like giving assistive technology users the ability to hit the elevator, the lift button, right? So you're not forcing them to take the stairs and going through the keyboard and going through each element. So you just give them an option to jump straight into that section. Sarah, do you want to make a comment on that?
I think you covered it, my friend.
All right, got it. All right, so that's landmarks. Then the headings. So in this case over here, still using a pricing card. You have the pricing section. The pricing section, this is actually a pricing page. The name of the page is Simple Transparent Pricing. That's a heading 1. Each one of those cards has a heading 2. And inside those heading 2s, you have the heading 3s. Even though they look visually, they look the same size, there is a semantic structure that you bring by creating this type of structure. The next one is focus order. So this is how the keyboard will navigate through your page, and you can think of responsive design. If you experience this very same page on a mobile, that's how they're going to stack anyways. So this is a very good exercise and information to provide your engineers. And the last one, text alternatives, right? So how do you inform to your engineers what needs a description? Like in this case over here, I have a lightning bolt on this pricing card that's not informative. It's just like a decorative, something to make it fun for the sighted users. And then you have some check marks icons on the features. So I think that only brings a lot of noise when someone experiences these layout the screen reader, right?
And I can
And
confirm it is a heck of a lot of noise, folks. So if it is just
is it?
intended to visually draw the eye, oh yeah, it's if it's just intended to visually draw the eye, you absolutely don't feel like you need to have text alternatives for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Use with caution, right? So
Please.
text alternatives, text alternative, it is important when you have a photo like this. I'm sharing the YCA, the Run the Y Center pattern that we created. So I created this with Sarah. When I was interviewing with her, and she would say, well, yeah, text alternatives are okay, but if I want to share that image, I cannot copy the text in the text alternative attribute. And I was like, oh, that is true. I never thought about that. All right, but we can change that. So that's why we created this pattern, which image with captions, and I'll show you how this goes. I can share here. So if you can see the image, that's the same image that I'm going to make it bigger, right? So the text alternative for this image here says, read the caption below, right? So we're not repeating the caption about this image. And then sharing this and conducting user research with other users with cognitive disabilities, they said, I don't want this caption to be too long. That's fine, we can accommodate for them. So we only share the caption that describes the image. If someone wants to dive into that and learn more about this, you can paint a better picture. No pun intended. You can paint a better description for the picture. And the cool thing about this pattern is that if you scroll away and you come back, it's already expanded, right? So you bring back the experience if someone missed that one. So just a quick reference on how this image with captions, in our opinion, right, Sarah? Not that we created in light of providing an equitable experience for all users. So like I mentioned before, alternative text has limitations. So you can use, please read the caption below if you want to use this pattern. There's a progressive disclosure link that you can expand the description and you provide a much better experience to everyone. I already shared the Figma template and I really apologize that I'm just speeding through these slides because I thought we are gonna have like 4 hours workshop and we only have 1 hour. We understand that it's late for some, early for others, so I think I really appreciate you all being here. And we don't need a break. And let's go with an accessibility review session. And this is a good time for us to answer some of the questions that you may have.
Marcelo, I
Andres, I'm
missed what
gonna
you
rely
said.
on you. Yeah.
Okay, we have quite a few questions here.
Mhm.
Will I go ahead?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
perfect. I'm just reading as it is. This might be a silly question, but I'm curious
There's
to
no silly
understand
question.
how screen readers interpret emojis. I recall hearing that each
Ah,
emoji is read individually. Is that still the case?
yes, that is still the case. And how they interpret it largely depends on the screen reader, what the emoji is coming from. So for instance, Apple's voiceover can interpret its own emojis really well, but others it might not interpret so well. Whereas JAWS has some issues with some emojis. GIFs, which I know not emojis, but still GIFs are problematic. There's a lot of nuance to that.
That's really good to know. Thank you. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, please.
Marcella,
Let's
yeah, we
let's
have
do
time.
three more questions. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. So back to when you're speaking about landmarks, does someone asked, does this type of landmark annotation works for mobile product as well?
They do. Sarah, do you want to speak how landmarks work on mobile?
So it is something that in the mobile environment, you're going to have to navigate with something called a rotor on the iPhone. And that then gives you the ability to change whether you navigate by headings, landmarks, images, etc. And so once you change that navigation setting, you can move through just sort of the landmark regions of a page. It is not, it's something that is very sort of hit and miss about when people use it and when they don't, as far as changing that navigation style, but it is still very important because there always are going to be people who choose to navigate with those landmark regions.
So I have the rotor on the screen, and so you can see how the rotor works. My rotor, this is a new computer, only has two settings, but it will show the landmarks and regions.
And Marcelo is showing this on a Mac, so the rotor
Mhm.
is still there. It's a little bit different on iOS. On Windows, the JAWS and NVDA do this differently. There are keystrokes that you use to navigate these different headings, landmarks, regions, images, etc. I following up to the question where you asked about Android, I cannot comfortably speak to Android because I do not test with it and I do not use it. Marcelo, can you speak to Android?
No, I cannot. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience has an experience with TalkBack, but they all have similar, very similar tools.
Cool.
As Claudio has experience with that, so I don't know. We can come back to this. We can come back to
Yeah,
this question.
absolutely
I'll
come
take a
back
look
to
at it.
this.
Yeah. Hmm.
Cool. Marta was asking, in my organization, we want to work hard on accessibility, on the accessibility implementation. However, after the visual approach, what would be the next biggest topic to cover?
So the visual approach would not be where I would start, actually. I would start more with the keyboard navigability approach. Marta, I think the thought for this for both Marcelo and I would be, let's connect offline. Let's talk more about this. I think that we would both love to chat with you more about kind of the order of prioritizing and how you work through this.
Yeah. No, I always begin with a keyboard. So the UX, and there's, if you go to nolatin.com, so there's an approach that you take that when we presented at the workshop, content first approach, right? So before you even begin designing the interface, you focus on the content, how the user will navigate through that content. And then you can start thinking about how you're going to lay out that content. So I think that keyboard centric experience before the visual it's key to make anything accessible, to be honest. So
Cool. Did,
all right,
did you want to
more
take one
question?
more, or you'd like to?
So
Sure.
I'm being mindful of time.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Let's do some components.
Yes,
let's do
we
some
have
components.
we have so many questions. It's like I'm blown
Mhm.
away to see people interested in this. Like there's so many people interested in this. So I've also created a section on our Mio board. Let me quickly show you. So you can also post some questions there, because then Marcelo can come back and also answer some questions afterwards.
Let's do
And I
that.
have also asked Andressa if she would grab questions and pull them together in a document that will be accessible to me so that I
Yes.
can grab any questions as well and give some feedback.
Yeah,
Okay,
put on a Word
perfect.
document.
We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you so much, everybody, for like the huge interest. Let's review some components.
Sure. So there are two types of accessibility reviews. So you have the design review sessions, and then you have the implemented components, right? So let's go over and which, by the way, Sarah is available for consulting opportunities. She is open to work, and we're going to be sharing this again. Is her email, her LinkedIn, and the schedule a one-on-one session with her. So we'll come back to this. The first component that was sent to us, I think there were 5 submissions. The first one was sent by Alfredo. I'm not sure if Alfredo is in a call today. If you are, just make sure you say hello and feel free to unmute yourself and try to introduce this. I already reviewed this with Sarah, and since this is a Figma file, I would love to understand how you would describe this design to Sarah, if you don't mind, if you're available.
As far as I can see, Alfredo's not on the call. You will need to
Okay,
describe it, please.
sure. So I already described to Sarah. So this is a good exercise that you can all take, how to describe something visual to someone who cannot see, right? So it's the same idea of text alternatives. How do you describe an image, right? So over here we have a badge. I was explaining to Sarah earlier. So how badges, the badge component is used. It could be used to indicate a status of a record. It's on draft mode. It has been approved. It was archived, right? Or it could be like a category filter. You can you have a blog site where you have accessibility content, you have technical content, you have design content. You click on the design badge and you only see the articles that are related to that category, right? So I think there are a couple of things on this. Since Alfredo is not here, we can skip this, but it's a very common, 2 common components. There's a badge and there's the modem. I think the badge over here has enough enough color contrast. We need to understand the interaction that is expected to those badges, if they're going to be clickable, if they will we're gonna have to address those accordingly with area attributes. You need to engage if it is pressed or not. What happens after? Do you need some live area indication that the new content has been loaded after you success? There's a sequence of interactions that happens when we implement these components. That's why it's very hard to design components and think how this component will be used by the teams that are consuming them. The bottom one, any comments?
No, just agreeing with you, my friend. Let's go to the modal because this one has some fun accessibility risks to talk through.
Yeah. Sarah, do you want to talk about the modals?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things that we think about with this bottom modal here. So one of them is, of course, we want to make sure that the buttons are labeled correctly. So this is it's intended to be a modal to allow a user to delete. And one of the things Marcelo and I were talking about is if you are doing end user testing with folks with disabilities, the Latin text here could be prohibitive. So making sure that you are utilizing what looks like actual content for the user so that they can figure out what will be happening here. And then making sure you've got two buttons here, a primary and secondary button. So what are they? What are they meant to do? And making sure that a user can determine that the buttons are well labeled. A couple of other things that are sort of known odd things with screen reader behavior, making sure your focus state is behaving correctly so that it doesn't cause the screen reader to tab through the background content instead of moving through the actual modal itself, but also making sure that and Eric, I see your question. I will come to that in just a second because that's important. But also making sure that you have the ability to close this modal, right? Because sometimes as screen reader users, it's difficult for us to find that close button, or we can't do it with escape, or the keyboard shortcuts don't behave the way they should. So making sure that the close button is easily accessible, or you can hit it with escape. Eric, to answer your question about where the focus should land. So in this modal, there is a heading at the top that I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, says delete confirmation. That is where ideally we would like the screen reader's focus to land. And then ideally the screen reader user can use the Shift Tab keystroke or the Tab keystroke, depending on how it is configured, to hit the close button. And then it needs to, ideally, our focus then needs to take us back to exactly where we were on the page before we opened this modal. The question about tapping outside of the modal, tapping outside of the modal on mobile devices, let's not. That really, particularly for a screen reader user, for a screen reader user, there's going to be no indication that they should tap outside of the modal. And so
It's a
we
complementary
want to make sure
gesture,
that
yeah.
we can do the close button.
Yeah.
Marcelo, there's a
That's
question
interesting.
here that is more
Mhm.
visual. Oh, you were going to make a
Mhm.
comment. I'm sorry, please.
No, I was going to make a comment about how screen readers on mobile behave. So once you load the screen reader on a web page and there's a modal, the screen reader will automatically only move from focusable elements to focusable element because you use the gestures, the hand, right? What was the visual question?
Actually, someone caught it for us and answered it. It was about why the primary button on the left and not the right. And the response was that it's a common pattern in dialogues.
Yeah, I think this is more like kind of a design guidelines of your design system. I've seen you cannot think that which one is the right approach, right? So because if you are working with a bidirectional language, the location of those buttons will be reverted to the other side, depending on the directional layout attribute of the code, right? So, but there are a couple of things. There's more components that we can review. Would love to spend time and even create a meetup on how to make modals accessible. There are plenty of use cases like the modal dialog that goes in the center, the full task modal that takes the full screen, the modals that draws from the sides, so from the side of the screen. So there's so many cases for modal windows and dialogues. So the next component that we have, this is kind of is Marcos in the call. So he asked us to, it's not only about one component. I would like to know if Material UI is an accessible library, right? So I think the rule of thumb is nothing is accessible until you implement it, right? So that's why this conversation, when you may hire Material UI as your component library, it will probably have many accessible components, but the moment you implement those, you can make it inaccessible, or however you implement it, you can break things very easily. So that's why it's important to remember that even though you're working with a component library that claims to be 100% accessible, it's your responsibility to implement in an accessible fashion. Claudia, you want to make a comment on that? He's muted. I saw
Marcos is not here. Maybe we can review this combo box live, if you don't mind, with the screen reader.
Please.
So I'm getting set up to do that now. Now I am going to give a disclaimer here. You are about to hear the screen reader live. If you have never heard a screen reader live, this has the potential to be very overwhelming, and it is absolutely going to go very, very fast. So I want just be prepared for kind of the overwhelm of screen reader speech. Right. So we are going to, well, I think we are. Hold on a minute. There we go.
Autocomplete multiple dot operator storybook Google Chrome page component / autocomplete multiple dot operator storybook navigation region link skip to canvas share component / autocomplete.
Okay. So
component / autocomplete multiple dot no headings.
Okay. Oh, wait, no.
Navigation region link skip to canvas. Tom Fenby has left the meeting.
Is this the...
Link graphics and shortcuts button. Search for components. Search for components edit combo collapse. Search.
Give me just a moment, folks.
Foundations button expanded. Foundations button. No headings. Link getting start. Link introduct. Search for components list. Virtual PC. Search for components shortcuts button. Link graphics. Link skip to canvas. Navigation region. Main region end. Navigation region. Link skip to canvas. Navigation. Main region. Group and Grammarly. Left brace mode. Group start Grammarly and
real life screen
virtual
reader.
PC. Main region. Storybook preview. Virtual PC. Afghanistan static text. Virtual PC. Paula
Sarah, this was a component sent by Rodolphe, right?
This was the wrong one. Okay. Thank you. Apologies, folks. Let me get the other one.
Well,
Message. Your screen share has been stopped.
It's an autocomplete as well. Is Rodolphe on the call as well? Marco's on the call, right?
I am the team. I'm with Rodolphe on the team of Rodolphe.
Okay.
If I can share some details, I will do my best. But yeah.
Okay. So you want to go with that, Sarah? Since Nicholas is here and he's gonna try to explain what Rodolphe is looking for, and then we can come back to the material UI one. I'll send you the link.
So, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. All right, let me reshare it. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to pull this one up. Now, we are going to show this. Okay.
This is a storybook page,
Controls.
Sarah. So we're gonna ask you to go
Press Alt.
into
Then the
that.
second tab, right?
Yeah.
You have started
go
screen share.
to
Press
that.
F6 to component / autocomplete multiple dot operator storybook Google Chrome components virtual PC Afghanistan. You have start virtual PC autocomplete component / autocomplete multiple dot operator storybook dot component / main remount zoom and zoom out reset zoom change apply change the enable mesh apply outline visions select change go full screen link copy link skip to sidebar link go full screen button link open canvas and new tab open canvas and new tab link components autocomplete multiple Ivy yet has left the meeting new notification components autocomplete.
So let's see
Virtual
if we
PC.
can determine what we have here, because I have not done the
Afghanistan
context
static
for
text
this one,
virtual
so this
PC
is gonna be fun.
bookmark this tab button
All right.
list box item Afghanistan one of virtual PC components autocomplete multiple components autocomplete optional from Grant Sally to everyone for anyone that didn't know you can also slow down the rate at which voiceover speaks I have to do this as I'm not used to hearing it all the time
Yes, to respond to Grant, yes, you can. I am currently using JAWS, which you can also slow down the rate of.
components autocomplete multiple autocomplete optional
But yes, you totally can.
autocomplete components autocomplete multiple document collapsed components autocomplete multiple
right.
list box
So components autocomplete multiple. So what
from
I'm
Market to everyone oh well George
is
D has left the meeting
I'm going to expand this combo box by pressing enter, we think. Nope, so we notice
Jacqueline
the
Defio
enter
has
key
left
does
the
not
meeting.
respond. So
Golnez Abedini has left the meeting autocomplete edit combo expanded blank placeholder
right, so
type
now
something
we have managed to expand it.
Ahmed Gabon has left the meeting
Now, one of the things that
All
I
Junak has left the
notice
meeting
here is we don't have context for
Michelle Caroline
what
has left the meeting
we are able to
Yevhen Listov
autocomplete
has left the
this
meeting
with, right? I kind of cheated a little bit. I know that there are a list of countries that seem to be available in this combo box.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start typing and I'm going to see what happens.
list box no results found what
Oh, interesting. All right. So the first thing I did is I typed and I got prompted no results found. Okay, that's interesting. As I typed the letter U, which should have multiple countries that responds with, right? So I'm continuing to type.
Yeah, let me give you some context here, because when you press
New notification.
enter, and
New notification.
this Nicholas might be some good feedback for you as well. So she needed
Cyril
to
Z has left
hit
the meeting.
enter to expand the autocomplete, and when she did that, she selected Afghanistan. So which was the first now if you hit backspace, see if you can remove Afghanistan
Blank.
from
Blank.
apparently. There you go.
Mario has
Now
left the
type
meeting.
All right, now let's see what
United States.
happens. So we noticed then again, the screen reader did not give me feedback that I was removing anything, which is another problematic concern, right?
195 results as available 7 results as available
All right, so got 7 results available. That's good that it's telling us that.
3 results as available
Oh, cool. Cool, this is good.
list box United Arab Emirates 1 of 3
Sarah,
Right.
can you arrow down now?
yes, but I want to comment on something real quick. I don't love what it just did because it forced me into the list selection and maybe I wasn't done typing. So that was kind of unexpected. Let's see what happens now.
United Kingdom, 2 of 3.
That was actually what I intended to type. So,
Autocomplete edit combo. Expanded. Blank. Placeholder. Type something. Default. Milagros Alonso has left the meeting.
Okay. So that is an interaction that may need to be rethought because I pressed enter there, which should have selected United Kingdom, which maybe it did, I'm not sure. But it gave me no feedback. And then the feedback it did give me was the edit field again. And so what that would imply to Sarah
Ann Zankovich has
Massengale's
left the meeting.
brain is that what I have typed in has been
From Emmanuel
deleted.
Fonticley to everyone, it is interesting that VoiceOver gives the number of results and instead visually this data is not displayed as a text.
So just being mindful that
Ridden Dinesh has left the meeting.
some of these interactions are causing the screen reader to behave in ways that are
Benno
contrary
Lowenberg
to
has
the
left the
way
meeting.
these screen readers should behave. To answer the question about the screen reader voicing things, that is probably because it is ARIA
Andy Jack has
attributes
left
are
the meeting.
being used here. And so these are updating live, and so that wouldn't necessarily give visual feedback.
Ranu Singh has left the meeting.
Right.
So there are definitely some accessibility concerns here that I would recommend kind of thinking about how to remediate.
Nicole Murray has left the
I
meeting.
would love to spend some more time with your team talking about this. Like we were talking, we do have the availability to do that. But I would suggest digging in a little bit deeper on this.
Virtual PC.
Yeah.
Perfect, thanks.
Absolutely. There is, I'm gonna look at the time real
2:13
quick.
p.m.
All right, being mindful of time that we are over, there is one more component I would very much like to take a look at, but I'm being mindful of folks' time.
Jacka Judgesik has left the meeting.
Could folks show
Flor
our
P. Billiard has left the
cited
meeting.
presenters by raise of hand if they would like to continue or if
Hema
we
Tenzin
would
has
like
left the
to
meeting.
call it here?
Renee Volchko raised hand. Laura Heppel has left the meeting.
How about we continue?
From Johannes Leonard to everyone, replying to for anyone.
This is getting recorded, and we can send out the recording to people.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Sil.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, so I'm gonna for sure hit
View site information. Components autocomplete.
component.
Susanna has left the meeting.
Marcelo, because
From Sabri. Components autocomplete multiple
really
Google Chrome. Untitled Google Chrome.
cool things that I want to highlight.
You have the link on you, Sarah? You want me to send to you?
I have it. I want to give me just a second. There we go.
I would say that we can extend to another 30 minutes. I think that will be good time. So there are two other submissions on a Figma file. Well, we did one, and there's another one that I would like to review, which was a very good one. It's a complex component that someone's trying to design.
Yes. So hold on, let me. So Mira, I think I am pronouncing your name correctly. This is your component if you are on the call and would like to unmute and talk about this a little bit before I dig into it with Marcelo.
Yes, hello, I'm on the call. Yeah, so the component you're about to see is a side menu. So it's in Storybook, so it is a template. Of course, when it's implemented on the different products we have, it comes with different content. And I am sure you're gonna find some issues with it because we haven't spent much time on ensuring it's accessible. I'm assuming the basics are there, but as this is a complex component and it opens multiple levels, I think that's where we will see some troubleshooting, or not troubleshooting, but we will see some troubles. But yeah, super keen on how the screen reader will handle it because we haven't tested it with screen readers.
Awesome. So Mira, I will tell you that I am really excited to dig into this with you because I think, because I have cheated, I have looked at it in advance. I think you have a really cool opportunity for us to show folks a few different things. So this is very, very awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pull this and I'm going to share my screen and sound again. So incoming JAWS, just be prepared. All right. So now. All right.
Navigation / side menu overview. Operator storybook Google Chrome page. Navigation / side menu.
All right, folks. So to start, this is another storybook canvas. So
Task switching. Navigation / side menu overview.
I'm going to pop this out.
Navigation / navigation region. Link skip to link graphic storybook. Shortcuts. Search for component. Search for component. Virtual navigation main region. Remount component but zoom in button. Zoom out. Reset zoom. Vision simulator. Apply grid to the. Change the size of the light button. Enable mesh. Apply outlines. Go full screen. Visited. Copy canvas link button. Visited link open canvas in new tab. Navigation / side menu overview. Operator storybook. Visited link open canvas in new tab. Navigation side menu overview. Navigation side menu overview. One region and one link 41 smart glance high. Navigation dash side dash menu dash overview.
Okay. So we're going to take a look at what we've got here. Now, one thing that I will preface this with is that as a totally blind screen reader user, I have had to go to my lovely sighted friend and mentor, Marcelo, to ask for a little bit of extra context on this particular component so that we can successfully work through it, because there is at the top.
Close button. The emblem front door. The emblem portfolio avatar. The emblem portfolio button.
So to kind of give you what the screen reader just said, it said the emblem portfolio avatar button. And so
Ricardo Brandeo has left the meeting.
The context that I didn't have here is that we have to select this button to make things cooperate. And so because we don't have that context, I did what every blind accessibility specialist should never be afraid to do and asked for a functioning pair of eyeballs so that I could figure out what was going on here.
Navigation side menu overview. The emblem portfolio avatar. The emblem portfolio button.
We have selected that. And then some interesting things are going to happen. So
front door.
First thing I encounter, is this interesting label of
From
front
Johannes
door.
Leonard to everyone. Thank you for this great session. I gotta leave for today.
What does that mean? What is it going to let me do? What is its purpose? So that's, we need, if this looks like it may be an image, but the screen reader is not telling me.
Sarah Cathy has left the meeting.
So
Marisa Rukunko has left the meeting.
we need to see a little bit more context.
Mary
here.
Shazadian
Is
has left the meeting.
Is this a button? Is this a graphic? We're not sure, right?
List of
So-
4 items. Expand button collapsed.
All right, expand button collapsed.
Expand button collapsed.
Expand button collapsed.
Expand button collapsed. Expand button collapsed.
Notice that we are sort of just repeating this content. So let's try to expand one of these expand buttons. But before we do that, notice that there are no labels here,
From South.
right? So what are these buttons going to do? We don't know. We're not sure.
Emmanuel
So-
Gape has left the meeting.
But we are going to expand out and we're going to see. So
From Sabarish Kana to everyone at Mira Jaborska.
by pressing enter, I'm going to expand out.
Expanded. List with 4 items. Collapse button expanded.
Okay. Now let's look here.
Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button expanded. List end.
Create reservation, checkout report 3
Omer has left the
timeline
meeting.
expanded.
Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button expanded.
Right, so what does that mean?
List end. Business. List of free items. Expand button collapsed. List of free business. List end. Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button expanded. Collapse button expanded. Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button expanded. Julia has left the meeting. List end. Business. List of free items. Expand button collapsed. Expand button collapsed. Expand button collapsed. Expand list of free business. List end. Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button expanded.
Collapse it for a minute.
Dennis Nguyen has left the meeting. Collapse button expanded.
It is-
Expand button collapsed. Collapsed.
There we go.
Create reservation timeline 3 checkout report button collapsed.
Now we're going to expand this button here.
List end. Create reservation timeline 3
Sarah,
checkout report button collapsed. Lee Delgado
Yes.
has left the meeting.
so can you try to explain?
New notification from Outlook.
Have you encountered any barriers going through that? Can you point out like areas where Mira can improve this or Mira's team?
Yeah,
Collapse button
absolutely.
expand button
So,
collapsed. Expand button
Mira,
collapsed.
some of the things here, your buttons are going to need some accessible label names, for instance, right? So that we can, as screen reader users, figure out what these different levels are meant to do. And what I am attempting to show you,
Peter
but
Sell has
my
left the meeting.
computer is being contrary at the moment, is when we expand your
From Emmanuel Fonticli to everyone. One component I would like to ask about when doing searches filters. When you set
multiple
New
levels
notification from Outlook.
out,
Outlook.
it is just repeating the same sort of, I'm going to call it a nonsensical label over and over. So like with that reservation report 3 checkout timeline, when
New
that
notification from
button
Outlook Classic.
expands the way it should, there is a list of 3 buttons with that exact same label. So making sure you have accessible labels.
From Merville Dosimont to everyone. Thank you very much for this great session.
You also have
Merville
there are
Dosimont has
no
left the meeting.
headings that are on this page. And so one of the things I would like to talk with you about is your semantic structure and how you can implement headings. And then the last thing we'll talk about for now, because we do want to be mindful of time, is you have this very complex navigation menu. And if this behaves like most websites, this very complex navigation is going to exist at the top of every page. So I want to talk with you about how to use skip links or a button that skips to various sections of the page to do what we call bypass blocks. So allowing the screen reader to move past large blocks of content. And then, the advantage of working with me and Marcelo can take a deeper dive into the code and really look at what's going on, because I can show you what it's like with the screen reader, but at the end of the day, a lot of these issues are occurring in your code.
Yeah. So the other thing that I would say is there are some patterns that you can use. Obviously, we can see this is just like something that was put together. It's not a working product. I would love to see where your vision is heading, just so we don't make comments that you already know how to solve. For instance, this page needs a heading somewhere, right? This page will probably need a breadcrumb somewhere. Are there different ways that we can review these portfolio cards, right?
Vanes has left the
view
meeting.
as this? Can you view as a card? Can you search for it? So there's so many patterns that this experience will need, and I can certainly
Amandine R has left the meeting.
see how complex this is. I'm curious to learn more about it. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you would like to connect with us offline, Mira, after this session, we would love to work more with you on this.
I would love to.
Marco Ramirio to everyone. Sadly, I have to dash. Thank you very much, Sarah and Marcel.
We just started an accessibility ERG in our company, and I'm one of the ambassadors. So we are looking into a lot of topics, education, advocating for accessibility, but also
Brenda has left the meeting.
design system and products accessible. So there's a lot to talk to, and I would love to connect. And just one comment, which I now realized, is because this is a storybook template, I think we have labels for all our buttons, but because this is a template, they haven't been filled in.
That's what I figured.
Ah,
Yeah.
Right, so
okay.
that's why it doesn't read the labels, because we just, like, as a design system team, we haven't labeled these buttons in code because we created just a template. But that's something on us, and I didn't even think about it until I heard the screen reader, like, reading those buttons, and that was horrifying. But I also saw already so many other issues with this. And just one question, which I think can also help others.
Philippine has left the meeting.
Would you say that using buttons here, and it's
Philippe has joined the
maybe
meeting.
Marcelo, because of course he can see and see how it's structured visually, is using buttons correct way, or would you rather use list items for these?
That's a good
Marcelo,
question.
comment
So
on that first, and then I'll
yeah,
voice my thought.
so there are two things. So there's this dilemma: buttons or links. Let's not talk about list items just yet, right? So list items is good because it shows that's the outer structure of this navigation should indeed be in list items. But for each list item, you can add a link. So
From
if it's
Claudio Luis
taking
Vivera to
the
everyone.
user,
As a sighted designer, you may consider running NVDA with a speech viewer on so you can see how your components are being narrated as you build them at Mira Jaworska.
And
or you
I
still
was
have
gonna
a
second
NVIDIA, yeah,
exactly.
or Johnson, yeah. So,
I was gonna
so the idea is that links take the
Marco
user
Ramirio has left
to
the meeting. Screen
another
sharing meeting
page.
controls. Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt plus A
Buttons
button.
take the
Zoom meeting.
user to interact within the page. So that's the rule of thumb. When to use links, when to use buttons. Button, you interact within the page and you expect the user to do something without moving away. And links, you click on, you take the user to another page. That's a destination, right? But list items, I think you should use regardless if it is a button or a link.
Okay, thank you.
And that's exactly what I was gonna comment on too, is the same thing Marcelo said. If this were organized in a list, it would make so much more sense to me as a blind person and as a neurodivergent person. That would be so clean to me.
Amazing. Well, I can see we have a lot to do, but good thing is that we will have a project on accessibility next year. So hopefully we can
Outstanding. Where are you located, Mira?
Well, so I'm located in Amsterdam. I'm currently in Poland though. But
Okay.
our company is all around
It's all over.
Europe and the world. So
Yeah, let's
Awesome.
connect. I think we can
Absolutely,
definitely help
let's
you.
connect.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mira. Thank you so much, Sarah and Marcelo. I think it's time,
I have a
unfortunately,
question.
to
I have one quick question. Is there anyone here that submitted the design for reviews that we have not discussed?
Yeah, I think we haven't discussed the drop down.
There's one that was sent by, and I'll be happy to Kata Torok. I hope I'm not butchering your name. My apologies. If Kata is here, and I think if we have the email, we can reach out, and I'll do a separate session. Sarah and I, we can do a separate session with them because it was a
Yes.
very interesting component.
Yeah, that would be great. So where can people find you? Is it on LinkedIn, or how can people connect with
Let me
you?
share my screen. Yeah. So they can definitely find us on LinkedIn. And if you, let me share here. This is one that I wanted to go over. It was very complex. And I'll share Sarah's LinkedIn. You can find me on a number of places, like even the template that you download, there's my LinkedIn link and there's Sarah's link. On the Figma template, there's actually a link to Sarah's and my LinkedIn profile. You can click on you. So that it shouldn't be hard to find us, no matter where we are. But I want to take the opportunity and to give Sarah the 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 mic to say the goodbyes and thank, and I'll do some closing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love doing sessions like this. Thank you, Sil. Thank you, Andressa, for being amazing host. Thank you, all of you, for there's a level of being vulnerable when it comes to asking these accessibility questions and sometimes feeling like your questions are silly. They're not silly, by the way. But there's definitely a level of vulnerability in being willing to have your designs critiqued, to do this, to ask these questions. So thank you for our folks who are willing to have their components reviewed, and just to all of you to coming and participating. We appreciate it. Thank you, Marcelo, for sharing the stage with me and doing this. These are always fun.
Always a
And
pleasure.
we hope to get to see all of you at the Into Design Systems conference in May.
Indeed.
Yes.
I can only extend with a very brief thank you. Seriously, I'm blown away how many people joined in tonight, or today, or this afternoon. So
Yes, we are blown away as well. There like huge interest. We thought like this could be an hour of reviewing components, but there were so many questions. So I think if you are up for it, we can maybe do another session next year. We can, because 2 components, we haven't reviewed 2 components. Really sorry about that, but we are blown away by the interest. So many questions. So I think we should do another session very soon and maybe do 2 hours. If you're up
Yeah,
for that, Marcelo and
think so.
Sarah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, do when you have time, grab those questions for us. We'll be glad to help get folks' questions answered.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will do that.
Yeah, I see
Thank you
some
so much.
comments on the chat. Please feel free to connect me on LinkedIn and send me a direct message. I'll be happy to answer. So
Yes.
Same.
Amazing session, Sarah and Marcelo. Thank you so much. I hope to see you all back very soon. There is huge interest, so let's do another session very, very soon. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Andressa, for hosting another epic meetup with me. Yeah, this was an experiment to see if people are interested in accessibility. We didn't know what to expect, to be honest. So we are open for feedback. Let us know what we can improve. Leave us a testimonial and let us know if we should do another session. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.